She has to really reckon with what that means for the life that she wants to lead.
Who was most likely to improvise during the scene?
Sasha Baron Cohen.
I can understand why she's frustrated. That's how I feel watching her interviews.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young Black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should.
One major development going on now involves more to do with Dominique Thorne going off at the fans yet again in the midst of the Ironheart ratings disaster.
It's all ego. You would never find me with an ego like that. Not with my fallopian tubes.
Comes to the numbers. Spoiler alert. Kind of exactly what we expect. Ironheart ratings in the gutter.
Now, Thorne delivered the following in a desperate play to salvage the series. I think Marvel fans, she says, just need to take a step back and to stop focusing on our support for both diversity and LGBTQ and claiming that as some form of a hidden message.
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The Heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
And so in this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slug.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
Was a massive disappointment in the ratings for them, certainly. We do know, when you go and you look at through these charts, the first couple days it was out, because we have 3 days of Ironheart in these numbers, just like we had 3 days of Daredevil in these numbers. And Daredevil in those first 3 days had over 300 million minutes watched. So, and that was with less possible runtime than something like Ironheart. Yet we know that it hasn't matched that.
Now is that we know that Kevin Feige and Bob Iger, they're also engaging in damage control about this show, saying things like, don't trust the negative reviews, don't trust the trades, stuff like that.
Ironheart is the biggest L of Marvel of all time. The reactions are just spectacular. Supposedly he's smarter than Tony Stark, bites an electric wire, sells her soul to gain magic powers, uses new powers to steal. What did the writers mean by this? Smoke detector beeps.
And they were doing everything in their power to really prop up this show. That's exactly why they had RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., some weeks ago going on talk shows to really say that Riri is the best thing to the MCU to represent the legacy of Tony Stark.
When a show crashes and burns, it's easy to look for someone to blame. Maybe it was the writing. Maybe the studio misread the audience. But what happens when the star of the show points the finger not at the creators, but at you? That's exactly what Dominique Thorne did after the complete disaster that was Marvel's Ironheart.
She has to really reckon with what that means for the life that she wants to lead.
It's very short-lived. It's brushed over really quickly, and she kind of reverts back to her old self.
But one thing is for certain about this series is that all agendas aside, let's be very real about this. There's a lack of character development. The directing, the producing, the writing is just way off. It makes no sense at all, and it's very lackluster. There's no depth to it all.
A show that was supposed to launch a new fan-favorite hero turned into one of the most awkward, lifeless Marvel projects in recent memory. Fans were left scratching their heads, wondering how a character introduced in a billion-dollar blockbuster could be handled this poorly.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. But after I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that.
And then, instead of owning the flop, instead of taking a hard look at what went wrong, Dominique Thorne doubled down. In an interview that's now making the rounds across social media, she all but said the audience just didn't get it. She blamed the viewers for not being ready for what Ironheart tried to do. And the internet, predictably, went ballistic.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young Black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it...
But what truly sent shockwaves through the entertainment world wasn't just her comments. It was what came next. Because in a rare move, Sasha Baron Cohen, the man known for his savage satire and sharp wit, who quietly played Mephisto in the same show, decided to speak up. And what he said, it was the kind of reality check that hit harder than anything Marvel's written in the last 2 years. This wasn't just a celebrity feud. This was a moment of truth. And for Dominique Thorne, it may have been the moment her Hollywood future started slipping through her fingers.
Not only is she incredibly controlling, but she's a bitch about it to everybody who works for her when things inevitably start spiraling.
Oh my God. She is so full of it. This
is not.
Let's break down the rise and fall of Ironheart, why fans turned on Dominique Thorne, and how Sacha Baron Cohen delivered a lesson in humility the industry won't forget. Marvel had a plan, a bold one. After introducing Riri Williams, better known as Ironheart, in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, fans were told they were witnessing the birth of the next tech genius superhero. A teenage inventor who built her own Iron Man suit? That's Marvel gold on paper. Dominique Thorne's introduction was decent enough, though critics noted her scenes in Wakanda Forever often felt rushed or out of place. Still, Marvel made it clear, Riri was here to stay, and her own series was already in the works. The hype was real, at least for a while. But then, the trailers dropped, and something felt off. The tone was strangely hollow. The energy wasn't there. Visually, it looked like a downgrade, not just from the Black Panther universe, but even from earlier, less flashy Marvel shows. The suits didn't shine. The action looked muted. And worst of all, the lead character, the heart of the series, came off flat.
Ironheart might be one of the worst executed ideas ever in the MCU, because under all that garbage was actually potential.
Online chatter started early. Reddit threads picked apart every frame. Fans weren't just skeptical, they were concerned. The show was getting no serious marketing push, and rumors began circulating that even Disney wasn't confident in the final product. And when the first few episodes finally hit Disney Plus, it all unraveled.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark gets like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like, I like that girl. And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
The premiere came and went without buzz. Social media barely acknowledged it. Longtime Marvel fans, the ones who watched every episode of Loki, WandaVision, and Moon Knight, tuned in and immediately felt disconnected. Some called it the most forgettable Marvel debut yet. Others were harsher, unwatchable, soulless, cringe. What was supposed to be the evolution of Iron Man's legacy instead felt like a soulless echo of better stories.
There is also way too much focus on the LGBTQ community by the fandom in a negative manner, and it just needs to go away, I think, for a healthy story to grow, and for Riri to really share her limelight with—
And for Dominique Thorne, who had a golden opportunity to make this character iconic, the reception was devastating. But this was only the beginning, because as bad as the reception was, her response would make it 10 times worse. It's one thing for a show to underperform, but Ironheart didn't just underperform. It tanked miserably. Critics weren't kind. On Rotten Tomatoes, the show barely clung to a fresh rating. Some reviewers tried to be diplomatic, calling it ambitious but unfocused. Others didn't hold back. One headline bluntly read, Ironheart lacks a heart. And fans, they were even less forgiving. On YouTube, reactions poured in. Channels that usually praise anything Marvel were suddenly roasting entire episodes. Comment sections lit up with the same complaints over and over. The writing was lazy, the pacing dragged, and the character of Riri Williams felt more like a cardboard cutout than a real person. But the biggest issue? Dominique Thorne's performance. For a show that was supposed to revolve around her, she felt strangely absent. Emotionally, she never connected. Her line delivery was flat. Scenes that should have carried emotional weight landed with a dull thud. Some fans even joked that AI could have delivered her lines with more conviction. A savage take, but one that reflected a growing disappointment. Memes started flying. Screenshots of awkward scenes went viral. TikTok edits roasted entire episodes. Ironheart, instead of becoming the next Marvel legend, had become a laughingstock. And just when you thought the backlash couldn't get any worse, Dominique Thorne opened her mouth. In what was likely meant to be a thoughtful interview, she instead launched one of the most tone-deaf statements of her career. The audience, she said, wasn't ready for this kind of story. She claimed people were too used to certain types of heroes, and Ironheart was ahead of its time. The reaction was immediate and furious. On Twitter, hashtags like #LameGame and #HotAccountability started trending. Fans felt insulted. Critics called her comments elitist and dismissive. One viral tweet summed up the mood perfectly. Your show flopped. Don't manipulate the audience. What could have been an opportunity for reflection became a PR disaster. And Dominique, she wasn't walking this one back. But as the internet boiled over with reactions, one voice cut through the noise. A voice no one expected to chime in, and certainly not in this way. Sasha Baron Cohen had entered the conversation, and what he said, that's what changed everything. When things go wrong in Hollywood, actors usually fall into one of two camps. They either own it or they spin it. Unfortunately for Dominique Thorne, she chose the worst possible path: deflection. After Ironheart collapsed under the weight of fan criticism, Marvel's silence, and lackluster numbers, fans expected her to address the elephant in the room with a little humility. Even a simple, "we'll do better next time," could have cooled things down. Instead, Dominique made the heat 100 times worse. During a panel discussion that was meant to showcase produce young voices in Hollywood, Dominique was asked about the fan response to Ironheart. Her tone shifted. She got defensive. Then she delivered the line that changed everything. The audience just wasn't ready for what Ironheart tried to say. People want safe stories, familiar characters. We gave them something new, and they didn't know how to handle it. Boom, that clip spread like wildfire. It hit Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. And fans, they were angry. This wasn't just deflecting blame. It was blaming the very people who paid to support her. Fans who stuck with the MCU through its highs and lows, now being told they weren't ready for Ironheart? The arrogance of it hit hard. One YouTuber said it best: imagine crashing a car and blaming the road. Suddenly, Dominique Thorne wasn't just the face of a failed show. She became a symbol of Hollywood's worst habit, refusing to admit failure. And fans weren't having it. Comment sections lit up with furious responses. Some called it manipulation. Others said it was a classic case of ego outgrowing talent. But perhaps the most savage feedback came from within the community itself. Creators, critics, even casual fans calling her out. It wasn't just the flop anymore. It was the fallout. In trying to protect her pride, Dominique did something worse than starring in a bad show. She alienated the people she needed most, the audience. And as the internet exploded with criticism, one name suddenly popped up in the conversation. A name no one expected to get involved. That name was Sasha Baron Cohen. And when he speaks, people listen. For weeks, the Ironheart drama spiraled. Memes, think pieces, fan edits, reaction videos. Everyone had something to say, except the other stars involved. Marvel stayed silent. Producers said nothing. And Sacha Baron Cohen? No one even knew if he was still tied to the project until he spoke. It happened during a podcast interview that wasn't even supposed to be about Marvel. Sasha was there to talk about a different project entirely, one of his dry, socially charged comedy films. But inevitably, Ironheart came up, and when the host casually asked about the show, Sasha didn't dodge. He didn't sugarcoat. Instead, he leaned in. Look, not everything works. That's the nature of storytelling. Some things land, some things miss. But the worst thing you can do is blame the audience. The audience is never the problem. If they don't connect, it's on us. That one quote sent shockwaves. It was firm, calm, professional, but make no mistake, it was aimed directly at Dominique Thorne, and fans knew it. Clips of Sasha's interview blew up overnight. The phrase reality check started trending. One Twitter post got over 100K likes in a few hours. Sacha Baron Cohen just cooked Dominique with class. What made it sting even more? He didn't name her. He didn't attack her. He simply reminded everyone, and her, what real accountability looks like. And by doing so, he showed the world the difference between a seasoned artist and someone still too new to understand the weight of their words. Even longtime Marvel fans, frustrated by the studio's recent misfires, praised him for breaking the silence. It wasn't about throwing someone under the bus, it was about restoring some credibility. Finally, someone from inside the project acknowledged the truth. And while Dominique tried to walk back her words with vague follow-up posts about artistic courage and creative risk, the damage had already been done. Her silence when it mattered most, and her defiance when fans asked for respect, had cost her something far more valuable than a role. It cost her trust. And now, with Sasha's words echoing across every platform, the conversation had shifted from "why did Ironheart flop?" to a more savage question: is Dominique Thorne done? After Sacha Baron Cohen delivered his calm but crushing reality check, something changed. The spotlight didn't just stay on Dominique Thorne, it intensified. And this time, it wasn't just Marvel fans watching. The entire entertainment industry was paying attention. The backlash wasn't fading away, it was growing. Major outlets began covering the controversy. Think pieces rolled in with headlines like Dominique Thorne's Ironheart debacle, when ego replaces accountability, and the danger of blaming your audience. What started as a fan reaction had become a full-blown Hollywood conversation. Dominique's silence, which may have once seemed strategic, now felt like avoidance. And when she did post, it was vague at best. A cryptic Instagram story about not everyone understanding your vision only made things worse. Fans saw it as yet another jab, another moment where she refused to just say, "we missed the mark." But the fallout wasn't just online. Behind the scenes, Marvel was taking notes, quietly, carefully. Rumors began to surface that executives were reconsidering the direction of the Ironheart series. Initially teased as a cornerstone of Marvel's next phase, the show had now become a liability. Insiders claimed Marvel was reevaluating future appearances for Riri Williams, and Dominique's name was suddenly absent from upcoming press events and promo reels. Worse yet, other cast members started distancing themselves. A few unfollowed her on social media. Others quietly deleted promo posts about the show. Even crew members, speaking anonymously, hinted at on-set tension and unrealistic expectations from the star. And fans noticed it all. The same people who once defended Dominique after Wakanda Forever were now posting threads about how her response to Ironheart revealed a lack of humility. For some, it wasn't just about a bad performance. It was about what came after. The arrogance, the dismissal, the unwillingness to connect with the people who wanted to support her. By this point, Dominique's name had stopped trending for her acting. Now she was trending for all the wrong reasons: ego, failure, blame. And while most celebrities would have issued a soft apology by now, Dominique doubled down on silence. No interviews, no statements, no accountability, just a vanishing act. But in Hollywood, silence isn't strength, it's suspicion. And what was happening next, behind closed doors, might be the biggest blow yet. Dominique Thorne may not have known it yet, but the damage wasn't just public, it was professional. In an industry where perception is power, hers had taken a nosedive. Multiple insiders began leaking what everyone suspected. Marvel was quietly pulling back. Future storylines that included Riri Williams were being restructured. In development meetings, her name was no longer part of the big picture narrative. Even reports from Entertainment Scoops hinted that her solo project could be shelved or completely rewritten, possibly without her. And it wasn't just Marvel. Talent agencies, producers, even casting directors were watching the Ironheart situation unfold like a slow-motion crash. The word being thrown around most? Unreliable. Not because Dominique missed shoots or caused drama on set, no one accused her of that, but because of something worse in Hollywood's eyes. Public unpredictability. When a rising actor can't handle criticism, lashes out at fans, and then disappears when accountability is needed, that's a red flag no studio wants. And the whispers got louder. A former Marvel creative, speaking anonymously, said something chilling. We've seen actors recover from bad projects, but blaming the fans? That's career destruction. Even her management team, according to one leak, was urging her to do damage control, a controlled interview, a soft apology, a redemption arc. But Dominique refused, or hesitated too long. Either way, silence had turned into sabotage. By this point, other actors were noticing too. Subtle shade began appearing online. One fellow MCU actor liked a tweet criticizing stars who attack the fan base when the mirror gets too real. Coincidence? Maybe. But in this business, nothing's ever just a coincidence. Casting buzz for upcoming roles started going quiet. Her name, once listed among Marvel's future young heroes, was no longer in circulation on fan sites or insider blogs. YouTube creators began producing videos with titles like Why Marvel Might Recast Ironheart and Dominique Thorne, A Career That Ended Before It Began. And with each passing day, her silence wasn't just suspicious, it was career destructive. Because in Hollywood, you don't get second chances for being talented. You get second chances for being humble, for owning your failures and evolving. And Dominique Thorne had shown the opposite. Meanwhile, Sasha Baron Cohen's quiet professionalism was being praised across the board. Even people who didn't care about Ironheart were applauding the way he handled it. The comparison couldn't be clearer. One star rose above the flop and the other buried herself in it. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get any worse, it did. Because what came next was the industry's final move, and possibly the moment Dominique Thorne realized just how far she had fallen. Sacha Baron Cohen didn't set out to start a storm. He didn't tweet anything controversial, didn't subtweet, didn't roast. He just answered a question. Calmly, professionally, and with more power in 10 seconds than Dominique Thorne had managed during her entire media run. The audience is never the problem. That one sentence became a rallying cry. Not just for Marvel fans, but for audiences everywhere who'd grown tired of being blamed for the failures of flat, lazy, or overhyped projects. It hit a nerve, and the echo was deafening. Creators, critics, and actors began weighing in. Podcasts discussed it. Twitter exploded. YouTubers made hour-long breakdowns. But through all of it, one thing stayed consistent. Sasha's quote became the moment where the industry remembered something important, that respecting your audience is the first rule of lasting success. And the contrast couldn't have been clearer. Dominique Thorne, the newcomer, lashed out. Sacha Baron Cohen, the veteran, responded with humility. And he won. Not with noise, but with presence. And fans noticed. Clips of his interview went viral. Edits paired his words with cringe-worthy Ironheart scenes for maximum effect. The irony? Mephisto, a literal devil in the Marvel universe, had just delivered the most grounded, human, and truthful take of the entire debacle. Sasha's reality check wasn't just about Ironheart. It was about the bigger problem plaguing the industry, the growing disconnect between creators and consumers. The idea that when something flops, it's not because it was bad, it's because you didn't get it. Fans are tired of being insulted, tired of being told their standards are the problem, tired of actors who accept praise but reject criticism. And Sacha, he said what everyone was thinking. If your story didn't land, maybe the problem isn't the people watching. Maybe it's the mirror you're too scared to look into. It was a masterclass in maturity, and it made Dominique Thorne look even worse by comparison. As Sasha's quote kept circulating, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a moment, it was a message. And for Dominique, that message wasn't just criticism, it was a warning. In Hollywood, careers don't always crash with a bang. Sometimes they fade, slowly, silently, with doors that quietly close behind the scenes. That's the terrifying reality Dominique Thorne might now be facing. Ironheart was meant to be her breakout, her Iron Man moment, the launch of a bold new Marvel era. But instead of stepping into a legacy, she may have shattered her own future. Not just because the show flopped, bad projects happened, but because of how she responded to failure. The arrogance, the deflection, the silence when it mattered most. And while her defenders still exist, a handful of voices arguing she was misunderstood or the criticism was too harsh, the overwhelming sentiment has shifted. Fans want honesty, vulnerability, growth. Dominique gave them none of that. Meanwhile, Sacha Baron Cohen came and went like a ghost. A brief appearance in a doomed show, followed by a single sharp truth. And he walked away with his reputation strong. stronger than before. No PR campaign, no damage control, just one sentence. That's the power of accountability. And Dominique, she's vanished. No updates, no new roles announced, no buzz. Just a career hanging in limbo, quietly haunted by the words that should have never left her mouth. The audience just wasn't ready. So, is this the end of Dominique Thorne? Not officially, not yet. But Hollywood has a way of making its decisions in whispers, not headlines. And if she doesn't act fast, with humility, with grace, and most importantly, with honesty, she may learn the hard way what happens when you burn the very bridge you were meant to cross. Because in this industry, talent opens the door, but respect, especially for your audience, is what keeps it open.